living, utilizing the technology of the 80s with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Cheryl Borden.
Hello and welcome to the show. We have 3 topics for you today. One of the season's biggest buzzwords is fiber, and my guest is Audrey Waldorf, who she represents the Roman Meal Company, and she's going to discuss the role of fiber in the diet. We're probably all aware of the more obvious sources of fiber, like whole grains and cereals, but Audrey may surprise you with some of the other sources of fiber we have to choose from. Food fiber is nutrition's unsung hero, and we're just beginning to realize the importance of it. Next, we'll learn to prepare an elegant dinner party with pork as the entree. Jane Hager is with the National Pork Producers Incorporated. She's going to discuss how to use a meat thermometer when cooking pork, and she'll also explain how to select a boneless smoked ham and show us how to carve a pork loin roast. Paulette Durfee is my first guest. She's a coat maker. She uses a lot of the shortcuts they use in the industry. And according to Paulette, decorating coats is the most creative and fun part of coat making. So to entice you to try your hand at making your own coats, she's going to show you how to decorate coats with applique, with yokes, and also with stripes. Paulette, in looking through all of these coats you brought to show us today, the decorations are what are really pretty. And I understand we can just do whatever we want to if we're making our own coats.
Each coat is different. There aren't any two alike. No 2 people can make the same coat because there are no patterns for them. You have to make it all up out of your own imagination. It gives a complete different idea on every coat. There's no way to duplicate it.
And we can use scraps. We can use, like in this example, you've used the same material for the lining as you used for the little inset or the yoke. I guess this one's called a yoke.
Whenever you're doing stripes or anything like that, you just use scraps. There's no extra expense to scraps from the other things that you've made.
So you never throw away any leftover pieces either, do you?
I keep bags and bags full of them.
And this one too, you've used this as an applique, a little piece of the same lining material.
Same lining, just outlined it to set it off a little bit, just to make it stand out a little more.
Well, you're going to show us how to cut our own decorations, yokes or whatever in a little bit, but let's just show everyone a few more exciting examples.
Some of the
this
fun
is a
things.
fake fur.
Yes, and all we've done on this is a little applique. Same thing that we did on the little red one is take a piece of fabric from the inside and use it as an applique on the outside. Put a little lace border around it just to set it off.
Very pretty. Ooh, this one's colorful. I like this one.
This is very bright, but we've just used a rainbow trim, carried it on through the mittens, and it's got a little bit of a sheared yoke up on top, just a plain piece of fabric with elastic sewn in strips behind it. It's just zigzagged on.
It's a different technique. Okay, let's show the back, how the same trim is carried out.
Just the rainbow trim stitched on top.
Now, is this a yoke put on top of this piece? This is still the same coat material.
In this case, this is just the same piece of material, basic pattern, and the trim is just a separate piece put on.
You just decided where you wanted it to go. Could have gone
drew a line where I wanted the placement to be.
That's very, very pretty, very colorful too.
Very bright, eye-catching.
Now you've done some different things on this one.
This one we've just done some pattern variations. Decorations don't have to be just in something that you put on to make it eye-catching. It can also be a design change of some kind. This one we've just lengthened a little bit to keep hips warm if they're standing waiting for a bus or something, and then we've just used a trim with lace to accent the top of it. In the back,
a little bit different in the back.
We've just used our quilting lines as decoration. Instead of doing them boring and straight, we've done it in a heart and then put a little piece of elastic through the back to give it a little shaping. Make it more attractive on little girls.
Okay. So they can be very elaborate or very simple?
Very simple. Some of the most beautiful coats are the most simple coats, just decorated with top stitching and nothing more.
Now this has several things very different. This is sort of the exclusive design, I guess you could say. It has lots of features. Would you tell us about these?
This is just a plain stripe decoration, but we've got functional decorations also. Inside we've got a little name tag that's for hanging the coat on. Then also an inside pocket, safe from
functional too.
The rain and snow. On the back we have a zip-off hood that can be removed or attached whenever you need it. Yeah, so it's considered a decoration because it's removed from the main pattern. Then in the back we've hidden under a flap. It's just hidden under a stripe.
The same trim that we use
on the front. The same kind of trim for a backpack to put school papers and things like that.
But now, are these the sorts of things that when we need to decide at the very first what our pattern's going to be, what we want it to look like, we need to know all of these things ahead of time, I assume?
You must make up your mind.
That's the hard part,
importance,
isn't it?
Yes. Very, very difficult to do, but it's very important. And then the next thing is you panic, thinking, oh no, I don't have a pattern for this.
Right. And this is what would come in our pattern, just a bodice front or a jacket front.
This is the back, is placed on the fold, and I want to do a little yoke on the back of this one, but there is no pattern. I've already cut out my main pattern pieces, and so now I need to make a yoke. All I have to do is just draw it in what's pleasing to me. Now, if I'd drawn out my picture on the back of, as I started, then all I do is just sketch in a line that I want. And
just
this
rough.
does not have to be exact. Just sketch it in the way that you want it. And take a pair of paper cutting scissors.
Just a rough.
You're not going to need this pattern anymore. You've already cut your pieces out. Now, if you want to make the same size again, maybe you'll want to trace this off on newspaper or something that you don't need.
Now, do we allow for a seam allowance or anything at this point?
Don't even allow for seam allowance. Just cut your paper up. And you don't have to be exact at this point. Then I like to take my main pattern piece. You have to fold it in half a little so that you can envision what it's going to look like, and place that on and think, now it looks a little too long. If it does, then I trim it off. And
proportionate. If it came, for instance, way down here, that would be way too
then
long.
Then I trim it off, or if it was way too short to be pleasing to me, then I just trace my pattern over again, start over. I'm only out pennies in paper and 10 seconds of time, so it's no big investment if I make a mistake, and till I get something that's pleasing to me. Then I cut it out of my material, and just like the rest, just use that pattern piece and then place it on your.
So it's on top.
Bodice.
We aren't eliminating any of the original piece at all.
We're not going to cut extra seam allowances because it's just placed on top. That way we don't destroy the main pattern pieces, and it's always going to fit, and we're not going to have those alteration problems that most of us have when we try to change the pattern way out of sight. It's not as difficult as it may look.
And I like your idea about either using piping or something here, because it's sometimes, especially if this is a pointed piece or very sharp, it's hard to turn that little edge under and stitch.
Even on this kind of a curve, it's next to impossible to turn that edge under smoothly and have it look nice, and then your top stitching has to be perfect. This way you can just stitch in the ditch and nobody even sees your top stitching.
So this one would just be put on by top stitching right in the same line.
Right between the lace and the yoke, and you never
And then do we just roughly
just zigzag around the edge, something to keep this little piece from fraying. If you want to, I can see the lavender coming through a little bit. Sometimes I put a little piece of insulation or interfacing underneath that so that it gives a little more
You don't get the other color through there too.
You don't see it through.
Okay. Now the stripes, those are always popular, and you had lots of examples of pretty stripes, but it's not hard to do at all.
No, it's very easy. It's done just like strip quilting, if you've ever done that. All I do is just cut my plain strips and then finish the edges off, either sewing them or
finish both
zigzag.
edges.
On every piece on your coat, finish the edge off. It's vital.
Okay.
And then all you do is place your first
started
stripe.
with this bottom one.
Start with the bottom because this is where it has to match under the arm.
Oh, okay.
And then start folding. Fold this one up, add this stripe, fold it up, then add this stripe, and fold it up, and top stitch the top. Just roll
we
that
just
edge
turn that under and top stitch?
And top stitch it.
Would you ever want to go back and top stitch any of the others?
You
or
can,
is that
but
not...
you never notice it. I think it's an unnecessary step. You just can't even see that. Even when I do it in a contrast stitch, you don't notice it. People never even see it until I mention, oh, it's top stitched here. Then they notice it.
And then we would just simply cut these off, and after we've applied whatever decoration we choose, we're ready to proceed with the steps in making the coat.
Ready to assemble the coat. It's finished, ready for creation.
Well, this sounds like the fun part of making the coat,
is.
and I appreciate you sharing some ideas with us. We could use this on other types of clothing as well.
Anything it would apply to.
Thank you, Paulette.
Thank you.